Hey guys, this is the FANA Fan Podcast. I'm Ben.
And I'm Topless, and for all you Groundhoppers out there, this podcast is for you. Tonight we've got a very special guest. We've got Dan, but as you all know him as football is, and that is what I want, host. Dan, how are you, mate?
Brilliant, lads. Thanks for having me on. Really happy to be on tonight.
Fantastic. It's great for you to be here, mate.
Nice to be the other side, mate.
Yeah, you've done it for both of us. Now it's your turn. Let's hear your story.
Go gentle.
We will indeed, mate. Just before we start, like Jake has said, we've been on Dan's podcast, so we'll leave a link in the description and stuff, so you have to check that out. So, Dan, what's your background in football, mate?
Failed Sunday League footballer, I'd say. No, more so massive fan of the game. Have been since I can remember. Wanted to be Paul Merson when I was a kid for some reason. I'm glad I grew out of that. Yeah, as I got older, obviously followed Man United all over the place. Absolutely adored them. Got a bit of a bad result against you guys last week, which wasn't the best of days for us. But we move on, and I just got to a point where I wasn't able to go and watch football as much as possible because of my job. And I thought, you know what, I want to stay involved somehow. So I thought, why not talk about it with people that I've never met before? So.
Yeah, that's a great way of doing it. You've never met yet. It's a good way of bringing people together, though, isn't it?
Definitely, mate, definitely.
So, in terms of saying you want to be Paul Merson, what made you want to be Paul Merson?
Oh, mate, I was playing. Remember Wembley when you were a kid, playing Wembley with the boys, and I really wanted to play, and I couldn't get on. They wouldn't let me play because I was too young, and then they finally let me come on the one day, and they're like, "You can be Paul Merson," and I didn't have a clue who Paul Merson was, so I was like, "Yeah, brilliant." So I was just, I went to school that week in year 2, I think it was, and it was, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And I've still got it now. It says Paul Merson. Didn't have a bloody clue, mate.
Did you want to be a host on Let's Talk a Special as well? Then
that's the dream, mate. So I might have been onto something actually.
Well, you know, he could be worse. Could be Chris Carrera. You don't know what's happening.
What a guy!
Yeah.
Oh man.
So, being a Man U fan, since Ferguson's left, what do you think about Man U? Do you think you got the right man in charge now with Ollie?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think the term I use for us United fans, you've got to remember, people of my era, you know, sort of, I'm 34 now, and all I knew up until he retired was Alex Ferguson. So I think just a bit of realism for the people who have started supporting him, you know, younger than me. At the end of the day, it was always going to be a tough ask when he left. I don't think any manager in the world would have gone in there and done as good a job. Moisey, I still to this day say he should have been given a bit more time. I don't think you give a manager a 6-year contract and not expect there to be some rebuilding needed there. But you know, off he went. We brought in Van Gaal, the most boring football I've ever watched in my life. Couldn't stand him as a manager. We brought in Mourinho, and Mourinho did his best to just hit the self-destruct button and turn everyone against each other. And then we got the golden boy Ollie, and you know, I think he's done a decent job. I think he's gone about his business quietly, getting rid of the deadwood. Somehow Phil Jones is still there. I'll never understand how he's still there, but I think he's on the right track. I think we're on the right tracks. You know, top of the table in January for the first time in 8 years. I don't think that's such a bad season, to be fair.
Definitely not.
What sort of position would you like to finish this season? Then top 4, top 6?
Yeah, top 4 was what we were looking at the start of the season, and even when we were top, you know, my trail of thought didn't really change from that. I was wanting us to be top 4, but this time, you know, comfortably top 4, not sort of last couple of games of the season trying to edge yourselves in there. Champions League's a must for a club our size. You can't be mucking around in the Europa League like we have been for the past few years. So. Yeah, just we'll see what happens. There's plenty of transfers, I think, that will come in this summer to maybe put us back up there. But at the end of the day, you can only do what you can do. And a lot of people have said, "Oh, you know, Liverpool having what's happened to them this season is the only reason United are doing well." And I say, well, United can only beat who they play. It's not our fault that Van Dijk's injured, that it took Thiago a little bit of time to get into it. I don't know. I'm happy with where we are.
Well, this is the thing when it comes to injuries. Every team gets injuries, and it can affect a team, but that's why you have a 25-man squad. And it's not about having the best 11; it's about having the best team overall. A player what can come in and replace the injured player and perform.
I agree, and that's the thing that United have done. I think over the past 12 months is we've started to build a bit of a squad. Last season, I can remember us losing against Burnley at home 2-0, and I can just remember looking at that team now, and I think our main creative spark in that squad that day was meant to be Andres Pereira. We've got Fernandes now. It shows the complete and utter difference in class. Pogba seems to be singing from the same hymn sheet as the lads now. I think the future bodes well for United. They just need to make sure that they strengthen in the positions that they're weak, which at the moment is centre back and I'd say right wing.
And make sure you don't lose Bruno to a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or somebody as well, because if the more he carries on.
Well, to be fair, mate, I don't think Barcelona can afford the electric bill at the moment, so I'm not sure they will be worried about that at the moment.
Well, with Barcelona, especially this season as well, Messi again, he's wanted to leave, and they're miles behind the title chase. I believe Atletico Madrid 10 points clear with a game in hand, something like that, and that's a new one for the La Liga because that's usually Real Madrid, Barcelona. So it's good to have some.
I love it, mate, because they binned off Suarez in the summer, and Suarez is top of the table with Atletico, looking really, really good. He looks sort of a new player again, reborn.
Yeah, looks very sharp. He's one of the best technical players I've ever seen. He's
love
fantastic.
the guy. And that's as a United fan saying it. I think he's so underrated, so underrated.
Yeah. No, Liverpool missed him when we sold him. Could sell straight
massively,
away,
mate. You got to think about it. That season that Brendan Rodgers got sacked in the end, I really felt for the bloke because in that season you lost Suarez and you also lost Sturridge to injury. Now the season before, Sturridge and Suarez were involved in something like 60 goals, was it?
Those were the top two scorers in the league. I think Suarez on 31 and Sturridge on 22.
Yeah. It's a big loss for any manager.
Yeah. Then the season after, we lost Sturridge. We had Ricky Lambert basically up front, and obviously he got sacked after the poor start in the season after that, didn't he? That's when we got Klopp. But it was not a good season. That season after the title challenge, and Balotelli obviously didn't.
Oh Christ! But I mean, when you signed him, I couldn't believe you'd signed him. I thought I just couldn't understand it. It was just he's got God-given talent, but he's just got a potato in his head instead of a brain.
Yeah, he's not right in the head.
Idiot,
unfortunately. Idiot. Yeah, a bit like Ravel Morrison, all that potential.
Massively, mate, massively. Ferguson has quite often said the most talented player he's ever had, and he's had some players come through the ranks there, and for him to say the most talented player, but just didn't get what it was to be a footballer, and I think that goes back to a lot of players. You can have all the talent in the world, but you've got to get it up top. You've got to have the mentality to want to succeed and be disciplined. It escapes some people, I think.
Yeah, clearly. I think it gets to their heads a bit, the fame and the fortune and all that as well.
Mate, I'll tell you what, a little story quickly. My friend was a coach at West Brom. He was coaching the youth team. And he said these kids are like 15, 16, and there's girls like wag wannabes outside the gates waiting for them at that age. And it's like, wow. It shows, doesn't it? It shows where we're going with the youth nowadays. I think you've got to have a strong rule in any youth team that none of that stuff happens. Stamp it out, because these kids now, they come in. I think they think they're Premier League footballers before they've even made an appearance.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, they need strong role models as well, like strong coach and strong parents. They could do a really strong father figure because they'll get taken away from the football with the girls and all that, and they'll start getting their ego boosted in that field rather than the football.
Oh,
field.
Definitely. I just wonder with Ravel Morrison if he'd have done better if he was around in an era when it was a Roy Keane there, when it was a David Beckham, when it was a Nicky Butt, a Gary Neville, some players like that who are sturdy and And I mean, Bex for all of his misgivings, them saying he was a superstar, in the public eye all the time. The guy was a professional. Nobody has ever said anything otherwise about his professionalism on the football pitch. First at training, last there, treated everybody the same. And I think these kids nowadays miss role models like that in the game.
Yeah, I think Roy Keane might have hurt Ravel Morrison quite a lot, to be fair, if he did with him. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
I agree.
So, in terms of non-league football, then, how did you get into non-league football?
Well, me and my mate Daz started Footballers, and that is what I want. Daz is sadly at the moment a sort of vulnerability with COVID, so he's not been able to do much. But we originally wanted to do just sort of like a football channel, a YouTube channel of just talking about football. And like 3 episodes after doing it and realizing we weren't very good at YouTube, sort of learning how to do things, which you guys will probably agree. You never get it right. You're constantly picking faults in your own work, aren't you? You're constantly trying to better things. And we learned 2 episodes in that nobody wants to hear about Neymar. Nobody wants to hear about Ronaldo. You hear about it in the papers all the time. So where we are in the Midlands, there are hundreds of non-league grounds. So we thought, you know what? Let's have a look at some non-league games and see what the crack is. And we did that, and you know what? We just fell in love with it. Non-league football is just, I say this to everyone, with regards to ground hopping as well. It's a bug. Once you're bitten, you can't stop.
No, I totally agree.
Definitely.
Right. I do love it. Absolutely love it. And do you know what else I love is the community, the ground hopping community. I say this all the time, when I speak to people. It's like a family. It really, really is. There's no rivalry. There's no nothing. When you're there as a ground hopper, you're there as a neutral watching 2 teams play football and marking it off. And I just love it. It's a phenomenon that I think is going to get more and more popular.
Definitely. And I'd like to get some of my other friends as well to get into this. Keep saying to me, I'm going to come to your game with you one day. And when that happens, can I come again next week?
That's exactly what it'll be, mate. Definitely. Yeah, massively.
Yeah. So I hope you do come one day.
Hope so, mate. Hope so.
Absolutely.
Well, in terms of COVID as well, I think with professional football being behind closed doors, and you've had the chance to experience still going to non-league, I do believe that's benefiting non-league because it's now getting people going to the local club instead of watching their game on the TV.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? The situation, like I say to people all the time, people want to watch the games on the TV. I mean, how many games have you been watching the last few weeks on TV, if you can, off the top of your head?
Just the United ones, and that's because it's my team.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? People, I say, and I might sound a bit silly saying this, but I think in a slight way, and I say this a slight way, COVID happening might, after the initial, clubs sort of losing money, I get it, but after the initial shockwave of it, I think could potentially be the best thing for non-league in the sense of people will realise there's these games around, and when the Premier League come back and Championship and League One and League Two, and fans weren't allowed in at first, but the non-league grounds you were seeing bumper crowds there, weren't you? Seeing a lot more people turning up, and I think it's the biggest benefit for it. I really do. I think if non-league clubs can survive this, and we see the parachute payments coming out now, the grants, which is brilliant for all clubs involved. I think if they can weather this storm, I think they're going to absolutely reap the rewards when fans are allowed to come back out again. Because I was going to non-league grounds and seeing sort of 200, 300 fans at the ground. Now, to people listening who don't know, don't go to non-league much, it might sound nothing, but to these clubs that were having these fans, it's massive. It's absolutely massive. It's like selling out Wembley to them.
It is, definitely. There was a ground I went to, and it must have been about 2 years ago, and I must have been one of about maybe 10, 15 within the crowd. And I returned a few weeks ago with Jake, and there must have been about 100, 200 within it. And it was just incredible just to see how many people have come through the door and just to watch
massively, mate,
live.
massively. And I say this to you, probably say the same, guys. You both love watching the non-league games as much as I do. People have this vision that non-league football is a bunch of old has-beens kicking out of each other, just lumping it up the field, and it really isn't, is it? There's some decent football to be seen.
No, definitely not. There is some decent football. I've seen some players that probably could have made it as well. Seen some very good quality. We've seen the odd mistake, but then again, we see the odd mistake in the professional game.
Without a doubt.
So it doesn't make a change, really. It's just a lot more communal and everyone knows each other and you get to meet fans.
Massively, completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, you just got to look at some of the players what have come through the non-league ranks. I mean, Jamie Vardy's the main one. He started off at Stocksbridge Park Seals, and
I brought in there, mate.
Sorry, yeah, go on.
Chris Smalling was playing for Maidstone United before he went to Fulham.
Do you know what Fulham paid for him as well? Fulham, I believe, give him a little bit of money, but also paid for all their training tops and all their training gear. And I think it turned out with Smalling, because he was playing for the England youth sides at that level, it turned out, I think, that before he moved, he played more games for the national side than he was playing for non-league because they just couldn't get him back at the club. He was constantly playing at these games. He turned out fantastic. Chris Smalling, what a player he was for United in an era as well. He was at the back end of the Fergie era, but he come in. He never let us down in the sense of effort. I mean, I couldn't believe we actually let him go this season. I thought he had a really good season last season. I thought he'd have come back better for it. I think he's definitely better than some of the players they've got there at the moment.
Yeah, he did really well under Fergie. He didn't do so well towards the end of his career, but it was always better than Phil Jones.
I'm better than Phil Jones.
My dad's a Man United fan, and he says that Phil Jones gets into his worst 11 all day long.
Yeah,
doesn't like him at all.
But Phil Jones knows that's still a funny face.
I tell you what, mate, his agent deserves a knighted. I don't honestly getting a 5-year contract a couple of years ago at United for 150 grand a week. It's like Christ Almighty.
But then again, under Fergie, it wasn't too
Doesn't
bad,
that just say it all about the manager, though? Doesn't it say it all about the manager?
Yeah,
to have someone like that coach you through the game. I remember when we signed him, I was like, we've got the next John Terry. This guy's going to be the next England captain. He's going to be amazing. And Christ Almighty, as soon as Fergie went, he just downward spiral.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that story of Lee Sharp's birthday with Fergie? This was years ago. I think Man United had a massive game of the week. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Blackburn Rovers that year. But Lee Sharp's birthday, and he said, "Oh, don't do anything silly this week, lads. We'll celebrate his birthday after. We've got a big game." They didn't listen. They all went to his house, didn't they? And had a big birthday for Lee Sharp. And all of a sudden, the car pulls up out on the drive, and what do we do? Doors open. Door opens. Right, everybody out now. And as they walked out, slaps them up back of the head. Says, "Right, see you on training tomorrow, lads."
He lost his house, didn't he? He had to go back into digs because of that, I think. Him and Giggs. I know Giggsy hung around with Lee Sharp a lot when he was breaking through, and in the end, I think Fergie said, "If you want to end up like him, you carry on what you're doing." But the nearest sort of comparison to that, I'd say, is the Rashford. The Rashford and Lingard situation. Now, Rashford, when he broke through, was best friends with Lingard. And Lingard, there was a video, I don't know if you saw it in the summer before last, when they were in a hotel room and they were humping a pillow and doing all sorts. Yeah. And I just remember, Ollie coming out and saying, "Well, we'll deal with it. It's not as bad as it seemed." You could see he was livid. And everything I hear about Ollie, people say, he's very, very nice, very happy. But Jesus Christ, you cross him, he's got a temper.
Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah, definitely.
You need it, don't you? You definitely need it.
Definitely. It's what's carried Mourinho all this way, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. But then again, the whole Dele Alli thing, I feel sorry for Dele Alli. Whenever Mourinho goes to a football club, he always does the same thing. He always falls out with one player.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Dele Alli's been pulling his weight. I think that's been the problem because he was doing really that season when Leicester won the league and when Tottenham came up close. Dele Alli was incredible. But ever since then, he's always just sort of slowly dipped And I think
I agree, but it also goes back though to as a manager, you're paid to get the best out of your players, and I kind of feel like if he doesn't feel like he's going to get the best out of him, what's the point in him still being at Spurs? Just let him go.
It's a good point. Some other club out there
PSG wanted him today, didn't they? But they won't let him go.
Well, I think it's for depth into it as well. They probably still need, but yeah.
PSG probably want him.
Yeah, but I mean, look at this. He's played 73 minutes of Premier League football this season. Dele Alli. It's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's bad for him.
Unreal.
Yep.
Yeah, he needs to be playing more.
But then there's rumours like that Mourinho didn't even want Bale there, and Bale's only there because Levy or something was in charge. He's only there because he wanted him. So obviously Mourinho stuck with him, but I don't know how true that is. That's just a rumour.
I don't know if you agree with me on this as well. If going on to Gareth Bale, is it me or does he really just not care about football?
Honestly, I guarantee if it's going to go wrong for him at Spurs, he's not really done much. I think he'll be retired in a couple of years. Honestly, I think he's waiting for the Euros and he'll be done.
I saw a tweet today. It said Gareth Bale looked like he's rather be on the golf course. He's upset about Madrid. And they said, I reckon he'll be
I can see it though. I can absolutely. Do you know what? I remember watching when Madrid played, and he was on the bench pissing about, pretending to be asleep. And I thought, regardless of how you feel about the way you're being treated at a club, and I go back to Dele Alli for this point. Dele Alli's not come out, said anything. He's not released anything. He's not sat on the bench taking the piss. He's just kept his head down. You're playing for Real Madrid. Yeah. Where the whole world's eyes are going to be on you, and you're sat there on the bench ripping the piss. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't agree with the way that they treat him because I think he was a good player for Madrid. He scored twice in two Champions League finals.
Massively, mate, massively. Some of the goals he scored. That one against Barcelona. Do you remember when he ran off the pitch and run back onto it?
Oh man,
hell of a talent.
Yeah, I can remember that one. Yeah,
I mean, the other way of looking at it as well is I think the issue you had, the start of the issue was when Ronaldo went. I remember there was talk that the Madrid president said to Zidane, he's going to be your number one player next season. I want everything to go through him. And then obviously Zidane left. I don't think Zidane was happy with where they were looking to buy players. And I think it's just gone bad for worse. You know, as a player, Bale must have thought when Zidane's gone, right, fine, I'm going to get a good run of the green here. And then Zidane comes back and he thinks, oh, Christ, I've got to start again.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Probably disheartened him a little bit, but he's definitely nowhere near the player he was.
No.
I don't know whether I dare say.
Oh, Christ, yeah. I mean, what happened there? What happened there? How do you go from being as good as you are? I mean, I'm talking everything you touch goes in the back of the net to just being awful.
Yeah. In terms of Torres, I think at that time when he went, he weren't the player he was for Liverpool in that last half of season. He didn't even score in the World Cup that year when he was projected to be one of the top scorers. I didn't want him to go at the time, but 50 million, I thought, well, when we got Suarez and Caroline, I thought, actually, it's not as bad.
No,
really.
you did all right,
but it wasn't.
To be fair, you couldn't have got much worse.
Well, that's the thing with Torres as well. Do you think that because he's got a 50 million price tag on his head, and at that time, 50 million was a lot for a striker. So do you think going into Chelsea, new club, and he's got a 50 million price tag,
I don't know. I mean,
that's a factor?
I don't know. You look at some players. Some players you hear interviewed nowadays, and they say, you went this much. How did you feel about it? And they thrive on it. You know, they want to. They're £50 million players. Damn straight, they're going to go out there and show it. And then I suppose other players mentally, they probably think, "Oh Christ Almighty, how much they spend on me? Jesus Christ, I've got to do it week in, week out now." I think it's all about believing in your own ability, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You got to be. And as the striker, it's all about believing you can put that ball in the mark.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Chance.
But I think with Chelsea, I don't think Torres was ever the main man. I still think when he went there, I still think Drogba was still the main man. And in some cases, even Anelka at some cases as well. But with Liverpool, with Liverpool, it was always him.
Yeah,
he was the main man.
I agree with that. Everything went through him, didn't it?
Always. Yeah.
You've just got to look at Drogba's goal scoring record in the Premier League, but also in finals. He scored in a single final for Chelsea, and that just shows that he can step up on a big stage.
No, I think it's all of the making of the player, isn't it? All the making of the player.
Absolutely.
Coming back to Gareth Bale as well, it went downhill for Madrid when it was at Wales and he had that flag what said Wales.
Yeah, that's Madrid. The thing, you know.
Yeah.
I get you treat a player bad and they're going to fight back somehow, but professionalism, isn't it? You're a football professional. Whether you're annoyed or not, you're getting paid a lot of money, and let's have this right, a lot of money that none of us are ever going to see in our lifetime. You've got to give it your all, and like I just kind of feel like towards the end of it, it just become laughable. I kind of feel like he wasn't bothered at all.
I think the thing with Bale is I think he had a lot of different hobbies. Now there was another player who went to Chelsea who failed. His name was Andrei Shevchenko, and apparently he was exactly the same, always on the golf course. And it's like, you never see Ronaldo
I think another
or Messi on the golf course.
The other problem you got as well, mate, I think the reports come that Bale didn't learn a word of Spanish his whole time he was there. Now, come on. I mean, you know, Christ, mate, if you sign a 5-year contract in a foreign country, you need to be learning the language, don't you? To interact with the fans, to interact with your players. And I think, to be honest, towards the end, I think the players were just as big a part of him going because they probably had enough as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the word he was saying, I'm guessing as well. But me personally, if I moved to there, I'd want to learn Spanish.
Definitely.
I'd want to.
Completely agree.
You know, it betters yourself. I mean, how many players do you know?
The only one I can think of is Pavlyuchenko.
But Aguero, I think, has he learned English? I don't know.
He's learned English. He just doesn't like to speak English much because he's not confident within it.
But same with Bielsa.
Yeah, the same with Bielsa.
Yeah, but still, only a few though, isn't it?
But then flip side of it is in England, like I don't know about you, but when I was at secondary school, I learned a bit of French, but when I got to year 9, I stopped. Whereas in other countries, like Sander Berge, for example, he's from Norway, but he can speak fluent England because whilst they're out there, they're still learning other languages or English as a second language. So there's that to it as well. Some countries do like you to have a second language, whereas England, some people do learn a bit of Spanish, German, and French, but it's not fluent at all.
Yeah, I agree. Again, mate, it just all comes down to the character, doesn't it? If you want to learn something, you'll learn it. I think from what I see from the outset, I see a player that's slightly arrogant. I think, and I think he's just setting what he's going to be doing now, which, as we said, probably going to retire soon and play golf.
Yeah. Can you imagine that, though? If you become a pro at golf?
A pro at anything, to be fair.
I heard stories of Rafael van der Vaart.
I saw that.
In the darts
I saw that. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard that. Yeah.
Christ almighty.
Wow. Yeah. So we'll never know. It could be interesting.
It's interesting to see what you'll do with it.
It's one of those things with sports. You've either got it or you haven't. You've just got to look at Rafael Nadal. I mean, he's one of the best tennis players in the world, but his footballing ability.
Yeah. Well, his uncle played for Spain, didn't he? His uncle I think his uncle missed a penalty against England, didn't he? Yeah.
Was he that defender?
That's him.
Got it. It's right in the crotch.
The other one's Federer. Federer used to play football with the Swiss national football team. They reckon he was that good as well.
Yeah. Well, do you remember Gordon Ramsay as well?
He was on Rangers books, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think he had his ACL.
He made an appearance for Rangers, you know.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. But I know he played for the youth academy. I think he did his ACL, and that will end of him, I think.
Well, when you see Gordon Ramsay in the soccer ed games and stuff, you can tell he's got some football in the back.
Yeah, definitely.
You can tell he's there.
Oh, man. In a way, I'm glad he did, because we wouldn't have seen all those funny moments.
Something else, isn't it?
Yeah, one door closes and one opens.
Quite right.
So, what would you say the best ground?
Best ground? It'd have to be the old Wembley. Absolutely loved the place. Thought it's the one ground to this day that I've been to, and I just couldn't keep my mouth shut. I was just in awe of the place. Grew up obviously watching it on TV with England playing there, the FA Cup, and I just had such an allure when I went there. Just made me, it made me, oh God, took my breath away completely and utterly.
But what was
the
so
aura,
special about
the aura
Wembley, would you say?
of sort of knowing that I'm stood in a place where England had won the World Cup, and just the greats that have walked through the doors there, and I just loved the field. I loved the little track around it, sort of thing. I loved it, absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Only twice, mate.
How
I
many
only
times
got there twice. I was only 15 when they knocked it down. I went to an England game. Sorry, the cat's trying to get in. I went to an England game, England against, was it Poland? It might have been. And then I went on a school day there. On a school trip.
Wow. How many grounds?
Not as much as I'd like to. I mean, that's the embarrassing thing about my show. Really, is I hear these people come on like yourself and like Lawrence and Russ, and they're talking like, I mean, Lawrence said he'd been to over 2,000 grounds. I sat there like, Jesus Christ. I've probably been to around about 80, 90, I'd say. Obviously, the whole plan with the non-league situation was I was hoping to be able to go to so much more, but as it transpired, when I started doing it, the situation with COVID started. So it's just been it's been stop start.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other grounds like that you've done?
I mean,
apart
of
from
course,
Wembley,
Old Trafford for me,
of?
Without a doubt. As a fan growing up, you can't wait to get there. I mean, non-league wise, I'd say I really, really enjoy going to the Wolverhampton Casuals ground in the West Midlands Regional Premier Division. It's just off a road. You go in there, and they've got like a pitch there, the training pitch. It's got a lovely little sort of stand there. I loved it. It was really nice to go to. Loved the character there as well. The character was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Oldham,
so we'll
without a doubt. Oldham, horrible. Yeah, hated it. Couldn't stand
Boundary
it.
Park.
I got when I went there. It was a January. It was absolutely hammering down with rain. We had to park in the mud. I got mud all over my trainers, all over my trousers. And what I didn't like about it was I got there and it was the ground was half painted, and I sat there and I thought, this is a professional football club, and you've got a half painted ground. I couldn't take to it. No, I haven't.
And you've been to Leppings Lane? Hillsborough.
Why do you say that? Have you ever done any grounds abroad?
No, again, that's something sort of. As a kid, do you know something? If ground hopping was about sort of 15, 16 years ago, when I was just coming out of school, out of college, I'd have been abroad all the time going to grounds. Without a doubt, I'd have gone and sampled everywhere. I just haven't done enough of it. I kind of feel like I hit the ground hopping sort of 10 years too late. As I'm getting older now, and the wife is starting to sort of kind of get a little bit more happy with me going to football, I'm kind of hoping when we go on our travels, I'll be able to sneak a couple of grounds in them. But yeah, I'd love to go to a lot more grounds. I want to go to Glentoran in Northern Ireland. That is meant to be like the mecca of travelling to a ground. It's a really, really beautiful stadium. The scenery is fantastic. So that's probably a ground I want to visit before too long.
Well, when you've got a guy who's had 2,000
exactly, it's like Gordon Ramsay telling you to eat one of the specials on the menu. You know it's going to be good because he said it, isn't
it? yeah, definitely. Damn right there. I mean, how many grounds are in Belfast?
Got to be.
Quite a few, isn't there? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've been to Belfast.
Oh, right, okay. Was all night Estates? Yeah.
Yeah.
You went to Belfast to get it?
Yeah, so the first time it was quicker to go to Belfast, American Embassy in Belfast than where it was London.
Fair enough.
So flew out to Belfast from Manchester, had a few steady pints, stayed in a hotel. Next day got my visa and flew back home.
You spent weekend there?
No, it was midweek. I had to go.
All right,
Tuesday.
Fair
So Tuesday and come back Wednesday.
You were praying for a Friday, weren't you? Come on, Friday.
It would have been good.
3-day weekend coming up.
Yeah. Well, this is it. Brother flew out with us, and he's the one what got me to football. So if it was a weekend, no doubt we would have tried to get to a game. But the only problem is you got to be careful in Northern Ireland, haven't you? With all the history behind it and stuff.
What, with Belfast Celtic, you mean?
No, with the IRA and all that stuff.
I thought you were about football then, mate.
Yeah, but
no,
but we're not getting it.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
They've got the Titanic as well. The Titanic museum's right by there. So I'm kind of hoping that'll be enough to persuade the wife to get there with me because she loves the Titanic. She's a sucker for Leonardo DiCaprio there.
Yeah.
That'll do.
You're going to stare at a boat. And I'm going to stare at a football pitch.
Jack, wake up, please.
However, the Weatherspoons can't serve. I don't know if it's changed, but the Weatherspoons can't serve beer till about 11 o'clock.
Oh, really?
Whereas here it's like 9 o'clock. So,
okay.
Yeah, their rules are a bit
That's
different.
definitely good to know. I know that's
Irish.
That's like Italian, not like pasta.
Well, that was it. Before we got the flight back, obviously, my brother he went to Weatherspoons to have a drink while I was at Embassy. So he ordered his breakfast and went, "Can I have a pint of Carling?" And he went, "Oh, we don't serve it till 11 o'clock." He went, "You are?" Because in England,
I suppose. Well, Christ, mate, where I'm in Telford, you can get a pint for about 8:30 if you get to the right places. Quite embarrassing, that really.
But yeah,
when there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. So Dan, what's your biggest? What's the most grand you want to get to?
Glen Toran one, I think the place I absolutely would love to get to. That's a good question. Do you know what? I don't know. I don't know is the honest answer. I mean, probably the one in Brazil. I think that's a place I've always looked at, but because I'm terrified of flying, I think it's a bridge too far for me. But is it the Macarena? I'd love to go there. The Maracana.
Maracana. Macarena.
I think I look at that and I look at the history in it and what it means to Brazil. It's a place I'd love to go to now. As I said, because of my fear of flying, Jesus Christ, there's no chance. Do you know what though? I think the other thing to look at is there's so many grounds I know when we're allowed to go and watch them, I'm going to be able to get to. And I think as I watch more and more and mix with more and more Groundhoppers, there's going to be so many more grounds that I'll listen to. And with your show as well, when you ask questions, I listen to people on your show talk about grounds I want to go to. I think you just build up in your head a place where you want to go, don't you? But no, there's plenty. There's plenty of places I'd love to go.
So, in terms of the podcast, and like we've explained already, we've been on your podcast. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, it's literally. Do you know what? It's it's doing the same job that you guys are doing, and that's giving Groundhoppers a bit of a voice, and just having a bit of fun with it, asking people questions that you never normally ask. And do you know what? I had a guy called Joe on the show not so long ago. He said it's basically like being in the pub with your mates and talking football, and that's what I aim to do. And I think that's what sort of thing listening to your show you're aiming to do as well. I think people like to listen to real people talk, don't they? You can get your celebrities on and they can talk about things all day long, but I think a bit of realism, isn't it? So I'm enjoying speaking to people like yourselves. I had some good stories with you guys, and it's stuff like like I said with Lawrence in the last episode, we're talking about bazookas at grounds, and I think I'd never ever hear this from someone at work. So it's just having fun and just obviously spreading more awareness for ground hopping, essentially.
Well, the bazooka story, it just gets me every time.
Absolutely something else.
I've heard it so far.
Have you got a funny story of your own?
I think. Do you know what? No, I mean, when I go there, I got a ball kicked in my face by Peter Beardsley when he missed a penalty at Shrewsbury Town for Hartlepool. Got told to stand behind the goals because I get a better view of it, and he put it the other side of the post. It's hit me square in the face. Maybe nose bleed, just horrendous. Never forget that. Other than that, I remember going I remember going when I started ground hopping, and I was filming a game with Wolverhampton Casuals against Bilston Town, and this chap come up to me, this old chap with his sort of like he had his bits about him, and he said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a ground hopper," and he misheard me, and he said, "You what?" And I said, "Oh yeah." He goes, "You're a grasshopper. What are you doing here?" And I said, no. I said, great. And I stood there for like 10 minutes trying to explain to him. No, ground hopper. So yeah, just mishearing. But I mean, Christ almighty, that's one thing I'm looking forward to as well, is getting more and more funny stories as I go. But probably having my nose put out of place by Peter Beards is probably the one. You imagine, mate, living on that.
It's a shame it went Paul, man.
I think it's the reason my nose is so crooked now, actually.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So what about fans' experience then?
Best fans got to be without a doubt the. See, I'm going to do a 180 here, but the Oldham fans, when I went to watch Oldham, just for the fact they were the banter with them was something else. We were stood there. It was, as I say, it was January. It was freezing, and I'll never forget the town fans all stood up and chanted, "We want to go home. We want to go home. Oldham's a shithole. We want to go home." And in a flash, the Oldham fans jumped up. 4,000 of them jumped up and chanted, "We already know. We already know. Oldham's a shithole. We already know." That's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. I love that. I love fans that have a bit of fun with you.
You should have sung best fans, worst ground.
I might use that if I go back there saying that. I'll probably won't be allowed back there if anyone's listening that's an Oldham fan. Take your camera and your shit podcast off.
When we played Liverpool, and they've just won Champions League, so you've got all their fans singing "Champions of Europe, you'll never sing that." So our reply was "Champions of League One, you'll never sing that."
You sung that at Bramall Lane to them, and they all clapped and laughed.
That's what it's all about. It's about having the fans that do that, having the fans that are willing to interact and have a bit of fun. We're all in it together at the end of the day. We're all there to watch football.
Yeah. That's why I'll never agree with these.
What would you say?
Definitely not.
Never.
Last question for you, mate. Then, what would you?
Oh God! Do you know what? When I read that, I thought, how can you sum up something that's so bloody brilliant in 3 words? 3 words. I want to say "bit by the bug," but that's 4. Do you know what? I think I'd say family massively, because this ground hopping community is a family. I'd say growing, without a doubt. So family growing, and I would say, amazing. I don't know. Do you know what? There's so many words. There's so many words I could use. Do you know what? I'm gonna say 4 words because I just think bit by the bug, and that is ground hopping. Bit by the bug. When you're bit by it, you do not stop, and you'll want to go again and again and again.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yeah,
I'm sure we can disallow the.
Maybe. I mean, you guys are up north. Can we say bit by bug? I don't know.
Well, in Sheffield, we don't use the word just,
I sound like a moron. Bit by that doesn't even sound anything like you northern people, does it? That's it. There you go.
Close enough.
Bit by bug.
He's been bit by bug, hasn't he? Yeah.
Us Midlanders haven't got a very good Bengal accent, I'm afraid.
Right, Dan.
Guys, honestly, before you say anything more, I just want to say to anybody that's listening, make sure you come on to the FANA Fan Podcast. These guys are doing such a fantastic job in promoting ground hopping, and that's what it's all about. Guys, I take my hat off to you. The more people sort of promoting it, the better. So honestly, thank you so much for letting me come on, and just keep up the great work. You're doing fantastic.
No, thank you for coming, mate. Thank you for having us on yours. And we'll tune in on Sundays at 9 o'clock for everybody else as well who's listening. 9 o'clock, Sunday Social with Dan, Vaughney and Coyne, as they're called. And I'm certain that when we're back to normal as well, mate, me and Ben and
fantastic,
and
Jack
mate.
You'll see me there, mate. Definitely.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. You take care and stay safe.
Right. Take care, mate.
Here we go, mate.